محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمद وعجل فرجهم. नाज़रीन करम अस्सलाम वालेकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातहू. प्रोग्राम महफिल-ए-वेलायत के साथ आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर हैं अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. And this program is being presented to you through Velayat TV USA from Houston studios, from Houston, Texas, alhamdulillah. And we begin our discussion, our talk, with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And peace and blessings be upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Inshallah, today's program, inshallah, we'll be discussing just one of the daily programs that we come and talk. And today, inshallah, we will kind of have the same pattern to our program. We every day when we are here, we discuss about the ziyarat that is recommended for that day. We talk about a little bit about the dua that is recommended for that particular day. And something new that we recently started is the hadith of that is narrated by Abu Basir, who was one of the companions of Imam Jafry Sadiq alayhi salam. And this hadith, it is comprised of 400 points. Inshallah, we will be discussing a little bit at a time of this hadith, inshallah. So this is kind of our daily thing that we will spend some time on today. And inshallah, today we'll be discussing a little bit about an overview of Surah Mu'min. Surah Mu'min is the 40th surah of Quran. Inshallah, I will introduce that surah to you in a little bit. First, let us inshallah talk about today's Sunday. Sunday is dedicated to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam and Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. And it is highly, highly recommended to read or recite the ziyarat of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. And the beautiful part of every ziyarat that we recite every day is that in these ziyarats, at the end of each ziyarat, and like I have mentioned to you before also, that every day is connected to one of or more of the masooms. For example, yesterday, Saturday, is associated with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we have a hadith that befriend every day, or don't make a day an enemy to you. And then somebody asked the Imam back, how can we befriend a day? How can we make a day our friend? And the Imam replied by making or establishing connection with the masoom to whom that day is dedicated to. And so, reciting the ziyarat, and reciting the ziyarat is just one of the reminders. When we are reciting the ziyarat, we are connected to that particular ma'soom. For example, today is the day of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. So when we are reciting, in the beginning only, we are automatically establishing a connection with Imam Ali alayhi salam. We have the zikr of Imam Ali alayhi salam in our minds. We are remembering Imam Ali alayhi salam. We are remembering Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. So as soon as we start reciting a ziyarat of a particular ma'soom, one or more ma'soom, for example, Monday, which is tomorrow, is connected to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But today, it's Imam Ali alayhi salam and Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. So as soon as we start reciting the ziyarat, or as soon as we start to realize that this day is connected to, or this day is of Imam Ali alayhi salam, this day is of, or it belongs to Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. So at that point only, we establish that connection between ourselves, between our souls and our Imam. So the whole day, this thought ideally should be in our mind that this day is dedicated to Imam Ali alayhi salam. So whether we are eating our food, enjoying our dinner, before starting our dinner, we can recite a Fatiha and gifted to Imam Ali Islam and Bibi Fatima Zahra Salamullahi alaiha, Bibi Fatima Salamullahi alaiha. So no matter what we are doing, we are kind of having that thought that this day is the day of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima Zahra Salamullahi alaiha. So that is one thing. That is how we befriend a day. That is how a day becomes our friend. And Imam Ali al-Islam, for example, today, I hope inshallah we are all able to recite. And these are very short ziyarats. These are not long ziyarats, very short, maximum reciting both ziyarats will take you 3 to 5 minutes, not more than that. And like I was mentioning, the end of each ziyarat, we end the ziyarat with these beautiful wordings that we are addressing our Imam, we are talking to our Imam, and we are mentioning that this is your day. Oh my master, oh my guardian, Ya Maulai, this is your day. This day is dedicated to you. And today we are your guests, and today we seek your refuge. So give us refuge, give us shelter, and and support us. And so those sentences we are saying to our imams, we automatically are in our minds becoming the guests of our imam. And inshallah, imam, when we become his guests, he will automatically, definitely, absolutely serve us well, inshallah, both physically and spiritually, because we know that we have not just the physical aspect of our being, we are like a physical being and a spiritual being. So when we are his guests, he is serving us physically and with respect to all kinds of sustenance related to our physical being, material being, and also sustenance of our spiritual being, inshallah. So that is one thing. Second thing that I just want to remind you, I'm not going to go over the whole dua today, but we know for sure excuse me, that every day we have a dua, specific dua for that particular day, and those duas are taught by no one else but our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin al-Islam. So today is Sunday. There is a dua that is specific for today, and that dua, I would just mention the beginning of this dua, in which the Imam starts by saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And I want to mention again and again that inshallah we should start all our du'as with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Never forget that before a dua we should say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So we start this dua also with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And also at this point, I want to just remind that for du'as, of course, and if you want to start with Auzu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, that is even better. But at least we should be starting the du'as with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. But when we, think about reciting the Quran, the order that is mentioned in the Quran itself is that whenever you begin reciting the Quran, you should start recitation of the Quran by isti'aza, meaning saying A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim. So before reciting the Quran, we have to say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim and then Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and start the Quran recitation. So that is for the Quran. And for dua, like I said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, always starting the dua with that. And the dua starts with Bismillah, in the name of Allah. Again, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dua itself has Bismillah, in the name of Allah, Allahu, that I do not have any hope with anybody except from his generosity. So I only am looking, all my hopes are connected to the fact that my Lord, my Allah, is generous one. La arju illa fadlahu. Wala akhsha illa adlahu. And I do not fear anything. So my hope is connected to the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my fear, what I'm afraid of, the only thing Imam says in this dua in the beginning, the only thing that I'm afraid of, wala akhsha illa adlahu, that I'm not scared of, I'm not afraid of anything else but the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of course we know that, and we always pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with us through his generosity, through his karam, and that is where we are connecting our hopes to. La arju illa fadlahu. And otherwise, if he deals with us with his justice really, and we are exactly weighed and measured and paid off and rewarded or punished according to what we did or what we did not do, how we followed his commands, how we neglected his commands. If we are exactly rewarded or judged based on that, then we know, sure, we can assess ourselves. Then we automatically know that we are going to be at loss unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals us with his karam, with his fazl, with his generosity. So I do not fear anything. Wala akhsha illa adlahu. I do not fear anything but his justice. Wala a'tamidu illa qawla. And I do not rely upon anything. So I have hope with what? With his generosity. I'm not afraid of anything except for his justice. Number 3, I do not rely on anything. I do not rely on anything. For example, I have my phone here. I do not rely on my phone to be connected to the world. The only thing that I rely on, وَلَا أَعْتَمِدُ إِلَّا قَوْلًا, I only rely on or upon the word of God. That is the only thing in the world that I should. And that is where we must understand that we should not be relying on any worldly things at all. All the times we should be thinking and have this thought in our mind that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can solve each and every of our problem, not the physical or material things that we have. Wala umsiko illa bihablihi. And now here Imam talks about and a recognition. Imam is pointing out to the fact that we should understand, we should recognize that I'm not connected to any, I don't have any connection at all except for the connection that I have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except the connection that I have, the connection with his rope. Wa'tasimu bihablillah. Connect or establish connection or stay connected to his rope. Wala umsiko illa bihablihi. And I'm not connected. I'm recognizing, I'm saying it through words and trying to understand, trying to tell myself that I'm not connected to anything, anyone, any being except for the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are 4 things basically, and then the dua moves on to other things which I'm not gonna go in those details. Inshallah, we'll try to continue it next week on Sunday. But for today, there are 4 things that in the beginning of dua of Sunday, Bismillah, in the name of Allah. And then Imam establishes which Allah, who's that God? Bismillah. When we are starting, we are saying Bismillah, then we should have at least these 4 things in mind, that why we are saying Bismillah, why we are saying in the name of Allah, why we are saying that I begin in the name of Allah. There are 4 things that we must keep in mind. Why I begin in the name of Allah? Because I know that I don't have any hope in anyone except in the generosity and fadl and karam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2nd point, I know that I'm not afraid. Why I'm saying Bismillah, why I'm beginning in the name of Allah? Because I know that I'm not scared of any being other than the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not scared of anything else but the justice of Allah. And I do not trust or I do not rely upon anything else but the qawl of Allah, but the word of God, but the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm not connected to anybody else. Why I'm saying Bismillah? Because while I'm saying Bismillah, I'm cutting off all my connections. I'm only keeping and establishing the connection that I have with my God, that I have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that was the beginning of our dua that is taught by Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. And that is the dua for the day Sunday. इतवार के दिन की ये दुआ है और इंशाल्लाह we should all try to recite the daily duas that are recommended for every day by our 4th Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin al-Islam. So the ziyarat of the day and the dua of the day, inshallah. Now let's come to the thing that I was telling you about, that we have started this thing. I don't know how long it's going to go, but inshallah, because it's a 400 hadith based on 400 points. It has 400 points. And basically, like I said, this hadith is also, yesterday I gave you a reference that it is mentioned by Ayatollah Mishkini. His book is called Nasai, which is translated, and the translation is called Hadiyatul Shia. It's originally compiled by Ayatollah Mishkini, and this hadith is also, you can find it in Al-Khisal, which is a book of hadiths compiled by Sheikh Suduq. So in both these books you can find this hadith, and this hadith is narrated by, the narrator is Abu Basir, and Abu Basir is narrating the hadith from Imam Jafry Sadiq alayhi salam, and Imam Jafry Sadiq alayhi salam in turn, from his father, from his father, from his father. So finally going off to Imam Ali alayhi salam, that this hadith is narrated by Imam Ali alayhi salam, that in one sitting he gave 400 points for a person to perfect his religion, to have the best practices in religion. And like I was telling you yesterday and before when we started off, that it is not only talking about the it's not only talking about the practices, the spiritual practices. It's also talking about our day-to-day practices. When we wake up, what we should do, and all these things. So 400 points, Imam says, that which is useful for a Muslim's life and religion. And in one sitting, Imam Ali alayhi salam told these 400 points. So we have talked about few points before in the past 2 days. Today I'm going to talk about few more points from this hadith, inshallah. So Imam says that cutting the nails prevents major ailments. So now Imam alayhi salam, Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salam, narrating through his father, and then Imam Ali alayhi salam, that cutting the nails, the importance of cutting the nails. Imam says cutting the nails prevents major ailments. So we should not ignore, cutting our nails regularly, cutting and trimming the nails, because Imam says it. So physically, if we look at our physical being, Imam says it prevents major ailments. Major ailments. The word that is used is a'azam, like serious illnesses. Only cutting the nails can protect us from serious illnesses. And then Imam says it increases one's sustenance. So physically talking, it prevents our body from getting sick. It is preventing our body from diseases, from Imam says major diseases, serious illnesses. And spiritually and overall, generally, it is just cutting the nails is increasing our sustenance, increasing our risk, and expedites the arrival of one's daily share of bread. So it makes, we know that sustenance has been, ordained for us and decided for us. Allah increased the risk, number one. And number two, whatever risk is written for us for that particular day, that risk kind of hastens to us. So Imam says it expedites the arrival of one's share of daily bread. So these are the advantages of what? Just cutting the nails. Then the other thing, so this was one thing. I'm going to mention you in front of you several points. One point is cutting the nails. Point number two is washing the hands before and after every meal. So before every meal and after every meal, we should wash our hands. Why? Now, health-wise and overall, what Imam is telling us, what is the benefit of washing our hands before and after our meals? It causes an increase in one's share of daily bread. Number one, it increases our risk. Just what? So it's so, we have to just trust, anybody, someone might come forward and ask, how come just cutting the nails or washing hands can increase sustenance? But this is not just anybody telling us this. This is Imam Ali, and today is the day of Imam Ali. This is narrated through Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salam, that just cutting the nails, washing your hands increases sustenance. It increases in one's share of daily bread. meaning it is increasing risk. Number two, the word that Imam used is ziyadatan fi rizq, that it increases risk. It also prevents one's clothes from getting oily and improves one's sight. Now, at least science cannot explain this, how washing my hands can improve my eyesight. But Imam is saying that just washing your hands before and after your meals at least will give you three benefits. Number one, it will increase your sustenance. Now, what happens that if we don't, wash our hands, we are going to, maybe get rid of that oil or that dirt somewhere, and that's going to make our clothes dirty. So Imam says that it prevents your clothes, and it's easy to understand, right? The two things that are difficult to understand, but we just have to trust our Imam, and know that if Imam is saying, that is absolutely true. Increase of sustenance, increase of risk. Your clothes are kept clean. So one small thing that our little intellect can understand is just this. The two things we cannot perceive through our intellectual capacity, that how just washing hands can increase sustenance. Number two, how washing hands can improve our eyesight. So eyes are, blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if Imam is saying, just with keeping that in mind, that I'm washing my hands because Imam Ali said that it will increase my risk and improve my eyesight. So inshallah, it will happen. Now, the next point, staying up at night. Now that is also, we nowadays we are spending, this is, the lockdown downtime, and all our schedules are kind of messed up. We are, a lot of us are awake through the night, sleeping in the day. But even if we are awake in the night, we should be, spending our time doing something productive. And Imam is telling us right that staying up at night to worship God would improve your health. So if we do night prayers, it would improve our health, cause the pleasure of the honorable, the exalted Lord. And of course, we are going to seek pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we are staying up at night and praying. And it is a means of seeking His mercy. So if we want to seek mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we are going through any problem, any troubles in our life, and we want to seek mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want to be just connected to rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is one small thing that we can do, that stay up at night and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That will automatically connect us directly with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it improves our health. It causes pleasure, of course, it pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, waking up at night and praying. And number three, we are directly connected to mercy, the raham of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. We are directly connected to the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is a beautiful thing. If we want to follow all the prophets, 124,000 prophets that have been sent, if we want to follow their path, if we want to follow their sunnah, if we want to do one thing that 124,000 prophets did, that one thing would be staying up at night and praying. So it is a way of following the behavior of the prophets. It's the sunnah. It was the akhlaq of the prophet, that the prophets, all the prophets, that they would stay up through the night and pray. So very a lot of benefits of of course that is not our topic today. Inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq, inshallah we'll talk about in future, talk about the benefits of namaz-e-shab or namaz-e-tahajjud. But over here in this 400 point hadith, this is one of the things that is important to perfect our religion, to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to improve our practices. Another thing is, it's a common saying also, who knows, people got it from Imam Ali alayhi salam, that eating an apple is good for the stomach. meaning there are some fruits and some vegetables that are mentioned in these 400 points, and when we come to those, I will mention those. Eating an apple, so meaning apple, of course, I don't want to stress on that, we are not going into details, but if you're not eating apples in your daily diet, it's just include it, because it's something that is recommended by Imam, that eating an apple would is good for the stomach. And we know that stomach is kind of like the seat of all the illnesses. If our stomach and our digestive system is working all right, then we are protected from a lot of diseases. So Imam says that eating an apple is good or healthy for the stomach. So if that is not one of the practices you have, I would highly recommend, based off on this hadith of Imam Ali, Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salam, that eating an apple daily is good for our health. Imam also says an interesting thing, that chewing gum would strengthen the teeth. Now, in that time, gum maybe was in different forms. Today, gum is in different form, but chewing gum, it strengthens the teeth. It eliminates phlegm, and it removes bad odor of the mouth. Everybody knows that, right? People chew gum because it removes the bad odor. So this is also a recommendation by Imam, that chewing gum would strengthen the teeth, so it makes our teeth strong. One, two, it eliminates phlegm. It clears out our chest, and it removes bad odor or bad breath from the mouth. So that is also one thing that Imam is recommending us. Now, it is two more things I'll mention, and then I'll move on to a little bit talk about Surah Al-Mu'min. Now, it is the next thing Imam says, that it is much better to sit in the mosque after dawn until sunrise. So Imam is recommending, may Allah, inshallah, make that day come when all the mosques are open for regular normal activity, inshallah soon. And there are very few of us, unfortunately, who actually go to the mosque for Fajr prayers, but that is something highly recommended. And here Imam says that it is much better to sit in the mosque. So after dawn, so from the Fajr, starting of the Fajr time to the sunrise, Imam says that instead of going out in search of food, it is much better to just stay. That is the time from the dawn to the sunrise, from the starting of Fajr time to the sunrise, and that is the time that you sit in the mosque. For example, if you're not in the mosque, even staying on the prayer mat and praying. When we had Sister Ira Maskari with us, she recommended from one of the scholars, of course, 58th verse of Surah Zariyat, to be recited 27 times after Fajr. That's a small verse again, 58th verse of Surah Zariyat. If someone recites this verse of Quran after Fajr 27 times, Allah increases his sustenance and opens the doors of sustenance for him. So that is one dua that you can recite after Fajr. Even reciting Surah Alam Nashrah 11 times before and after you recite salawat, and recite 11 times Surah Alam Nashrah after Fajr time. That is also good for acceptance of any dua that you have. If you have any hajat that you want to be fulfilled, every day after Fajr time, after you recite your Fajr prayers, after you're done with your Fajr prayers, recite 11 times which surah? Surah Alam Nashrah. And before and after you recite salawat, and when you recite that surah 11 times, you should have that hajat in your mind. And then after the recitations, you make dua, do the dua, and inshallah whoever does that, his hajat is fulfilled, or Allah accepts his dua. Another thing that is taught after Fajr, these are all the amal after Fajr namaz. There are so many things that we can do. There's some of the things that I'm just mentioning because these are the problems that we usually have. We are looking for increase in sustenance. Whenever we are asking for increase in sustenance, and expansion and increase in risk, we should be keeping in mind not just the material risk, not just the food we eat or money or all these material things, but we should also be focusing and have in mind and asking for our spiritual sustenance, because that spiritual sustenance is very, very important to keep our souls and our spirits healthy. So number one, I told you verse 58 of Surah Zariyat to be recited 27 times. Then Surah Alam Nashrah for any hajat 11 times. And this is all after Fajr. And then Imam Ali al-Islam said that whoever wants to be protected from sins and needs Allah's special, of course, we cannot just say, okay, I did this and now I'm not going to be sinning, or Allah will just protect me. Of course, we have to make our efforts, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very, very easy for us. And that ta'eed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. And automatically, Allah kind of, makes it difficult for us to sin. And of course, that also involves our efforts. But one procedure, one recitation that is recommended by Imam Ali al-Islam is reciting Surah Ikhlas 11 times after Fajr prayers. And that is also, that will do what? That will protect us from sinning during the day. So we will be kind of protected from the attack of shaitan during the day. So these are some of the things, like in reference to this point that Imam mentions, that from the Fajr to the sunrise, it is better to stay in the mosque instead of going out in search of risk, because that is the time that, of course, we know that there has to be an effort made and there has to be a dua made. So effort is necessary, of course. We have to go out and search for sustenance, of course. We have to work for that, of course. But this is the time from dawn to sunrise is the time when Imam says that it is not the time to make that physical effort. It is the time to make the dua and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase your means of sustenance. So that is one thing. The last thing for today is, there's one fruit which is, I have never had this fruit, but I was just searching up because I read this and then I was a little bit curious about this fruit, and let's see if I'm able to find it and I'll let you know. So I was just doing some research. It's called a quinces, and it says on the internet at least that it is grown across the globe. It is not really specific for a particular area. It is grown more in China and Turkey, but across the globe, it is cultivated and it can be found. And the food is called quince, Quinces. And Imam says, because why I was so curious, because when I look at the benefits of this fruit, eating quinces, and it has a very like a perfume like odor, it has a very good smell, and it looks like a pear, and it actually belongs to that same family of apples and pears, but it's a different fruit. It looks like a pear, more yellowish. When it's ripe, it's green. When it's not ripe, but as much as it ripens, it looks like a pear. So it's a quince. Eating quinces, Imam says, would strengthen a weak heart. So it strengthens a weak heart. It cleans the stomach. It improves spiritual. So that fruit improves our spiritual strength. It makes our heart, it takes away all the fears of the heart. It says it would strengthen a weak heart. It will clean the stomach. It will improve spiritual strength. It will convert, these are the words of Imam, it will convert a scared person to a brave one and result. So these are the things. So it will convert a scared person to a brave one. It will strengthen a weak heart, and it will clean the stomach. Again, the apple, we learned from the Imam that it is good for the stomach. This fruit quince, it is also, and if you look search through the internet, you can actually see that it cannot. It's a little bit hard, so it cannot be eaten. Like I said, I've never tried it before, so I'm just telling you based off whatever I learned from the internet, that it is kind of hard, so it cannot be eaten as is. But some people do, eat it raw. It can be eaten raw, but it is cooked or baked, or there's different things. I'm not talking right now about how to cook a quince, but just mentioning the spelling Quince, quince. This has a lot of benefits. Remember, we are in this world, so this world has provision. Of course, we are made for the hereafter, but this world has those things, physical and spiritual both. So there are benefits, spiritual benefits. That is why it is very important for us to actually be very aware of what we are eating. Right? It is the same meat. For example, a a cow's meat or beef. But if a cow was not slaughtered in the Islamic way, that same piece of beef becomes haram for us, meaning consuming that beef is guna or a sin. So, and that same beef, when slaughtered in an Islamic way, is halal to eat. It's okay to eat. You can enjoy as much as you want, right? So, these are just physical things, meat or whatever is halal, staying away from haram. These are all physical material food or physical material sustenance, but they all have an impact on our soul. Like Imam Hussein al-Islam, when he pointed to Ibn Ziyad's army on the day of Ashura, he said that the reason why you are standing against me in Yazid's camp is because you have filled your stomachs with haram. That is why that eating haram, that just, eating haram food, consuming haram can destroy our soul, can make our souls weak. So it is very important what we eat. These are some of the fruits and edibles and that Imam is actually recommending. The two edibles, that actually three things. One is just chewing gum, one is eating apples, and three is quince. And then washing our hands and cutting our nails. All these have effect on our sustenance, on our eyesight, on our general health. So inshallah, this is a 400 point hadith, and we have maybe reached up to like point 16 or 17. So still have 300 and more than 380 points to go, inshallah. So we will continue that discussion. But today, like I said, and we don't have a lot of time, but that's okay. Inshallah, we'll continue it next time. What I plan to do is, inshallah, through these programs on Sundays, inshallah, we'll try to go over. I know on Mondays we have Sister Shaheen Rizvi, who does short surah tafsirs and brief explanations of short surahs on Mondays. But on Sundays also, inshallah, we'll try that we will do basically doing Quran tafsir, because I think that is, and of course, when we are doing Quran tafsir, we are always referring to the hadiths of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. So we are this day, Sunday, we will dedicated to learning Quran, inshallah. Brief things, just kind of just learning a little bit, getting a feel of different surahs in the Quran, inshallah. So the surah that I picked today is Surah Mu'min. And why I picked it? I picked it because it is just because we have a tafsir class and we did this surah in that class. So I just thought that I loved it. It's a beautiful surah, beautiful lessons. And overall, when you recite this surah, when you learn its meaning, it gives you an amazing feeling. And I hope it has changed me a little bit. I hope, but I can feel that when we learn things, when we gain knowledge, it automatically has an impact on what we are doing, on our actions, on our feelings, on our thoughts. So my goal would be to just convey to you a little bit briefly about these surahs, inshallah. Surah Mu'min. I think today we will only be able to do, and of course, like I said, I'm not going to go in a lot of details. Inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq, someday we will do that, inshallah. But as of now, our goal is not going into a lot of details, but based on the tafsir, just briefly kind of introducing the surahs to you and what's in the surah. So Surah Mu'min, it's the 40th surah, the number of surah in the Quran is 40th. And this surah is also called Ghafir, Ghain, Alif, Fa, Ra. So there are two names of this surah. So maybe in your Quran you'll say, oh, I can't find Surah Mu'min in my Quran. So maybe in your Quran it's mentioned by the name of Surah Ghafir. So Surah Ghafir and Surah Mu'min are the same surah, same names of the same surah, Mu'min, Ghafir. It's the 40th surah of Quran. It's not a very long surah. It's comprised of 85 verses. It's not a very short surah, not a very long surah, kind of, in between, 85 verses. It was revealed in Makkah. So we know that there are some surahs that were revealed in Makkah. There are some surahs that were revealed in Medina. The surahs that were revealed in Makkah, while the Prophet was living in Makkah, are called Makki surahs, and the surahs that were revealed while the Prophet was living in Medina are called Madani surahs. And Makki and Madani surahs are quite different in their contents, because we know that when the Prophet began his journey of spreading Islam, he was living in Mecca, and it was a whole different environment, very staunch and arrogant people and ignorant people, a society that was immersed in ignorance, and there was like people were worshipping idols, and they were very adamant people, very very different than that point was when Prophet was just introducing Islam, right? What Islam is, he was introducing Tawheed. He was making them aware of the Day of Judgment. What is Day of Judgment? What is Sawab? What is Gunah? So in Makki surahs, we see that they talk more about Usul-e-Din or Aqaid. They talk more about Tawheed. They talk more about Day of Judgment. They talk more about Nabuat. They talk like prophethood. They talk more about Imamat and justice of Allah. So these surahs, the surahs that were revealed in Makkah, are concentrating more on aqaid or beliefs. While we see that Madani surahs, there is more talk on the Furu'e-Din, which means namaz, roza, like for example the ahkam in Deen. They're more talked about in the Madani surah. So Surah Ghafir or Surah Mu'min, it is the 40th surah of Quran. It was revealed in Makkah. So instantly, if we know that Makki surahs have those topics in them, we automatically, and also in Makki surahs, you will see a lot of Prophet stories. Because at that time, Prophet was trying to, invite people to Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was revealing the Quran to him. Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam was bringing the Quran to him. And there were a lot of references from the previous prophets, because there were a lot of Jews and Christians living in that society also. So Prophet talked about the stories of other prophets. So in Makki surahs, we also see that there are stories of the previous prophets, and other important personalities of the past. Whether it's the prophets or the dictators, the guides, the religious guides, or the oppressors. So there's more talk on that in Makki surahs. So in this surah, as you can imagine, Surah Ghafir or Surah Mu'min, the 40th surah of Quran, it's a Makki surah. So we know that this surah, we know and we see that this surah talks a lot about Day of Judgment. And there's a lot of verses. There's explicit details about hellfire and about how the people will be suffering in hell. What is how it is, the Day of Judgment is being referred to in this surah with different names. It's very interesting when you recite it. Inshallah, when I get a time, I'll mention that to you also. But it talks a lot about Day of Judgment. It talks a lot about, it has several verses that talk about the prophets that Allah was asking the Prophet to tell the people that previously also the prophets were sent for guidance. So there is reference to prophethood or nabuat. in this surah. And there is also a verse in this surah, verse number 46 to be exact, that talks about, that's very, very clear verse about barzakh, existence of barzakh. And inshallah, next time when we, inshallah, if we have tawfiq, inshallah, I'll tell you a little bit about that also. Not about barzakh, but how this verse is talking and relating. It's a very direct evidence of existence of barzakh in the Quran. So verse number 46 in Surah Al-Mu'min. And this surah, why it's called Ghafir? It's called Ghafir because in the beginning verses of this surah, Allah's names are mentioned, and it's a beautiful, beautiful beginning of the surah. When you start reciting, I want you to just go through first 10 verses, and you will really, and go through the translation. It's really beautiful. The initial verses, I don't have an English translation with me as of now, but if you just Arabic, Bismillah, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Hamim, Tanzilul Kitabi Minallahil Azizil Alim. This book has been revealed from the all-powerful, all-knowing God. Ghafir al-Dham. Now this verse, third verse of Surah Mu'min, refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Ghafir al-Dhanb, means the forgiver of sins. Wa Qabil al-Tawb, the one who accepts tawbah. Shadid al-Iqab, he has severe punishment for the evildoers. Zid Taul, he is the one who blesses people with a multitude of ni'mat, with a cornucopia of blessings. La ilaha illahu, there's no God but Allah, ilahil masir, and we all have to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the third verse, you see this word Ghafir, which is the name of Allah, which is the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ghafir al-Dhanb means the forgiver of sins. Ghafir means the forgiver. It's a beautiful name, Ghafir. And gives us a lot of this name itself, like today's dua, when we recited dua of Imam Sajjad al-Islam, when we were talking about the hope, we referred to the fazl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how we have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this verse is a beautiful beginning. The whole surah is beautiful, very enlightening, and it's all the surahs of the Quran, of course, and this surah, since we are talking about it, I must say that it's you should not delay in understanding this surah. It's a beautiful surah and has a huge impact on you, inshallah. So these three verses, the time is almost ending. So I will just briefly tell you why why it's called Ghafir. Because of this third verse, Allah is referred to as Ghafir al-Dhanb. And why it's called Mu'min, because in this surah there is a detailed description of Mu'mine-e Fir'aun, the believer from the family of Fir'aun, because several verses are dedicated from verse 28 to around verse 46. All those verses, about around 20 verses, are dedicatedly talking about the debate by Mu'mine-e Fir'aun and how he protected Hazrat Musa alayhi salam from Fir'aun's punishment, and how Fir'aun was planning to kill him and kill his followers, and how this Mu'min Fir'aun, the believer from the family of Fir'aun, and he was actually closely, he was the first cousin, according to different traditions. He was the first cousin of Fir'aun from his mother's or father's side, either Khalazad or Chichazad. He was the first cousin of Fir'aun. It is also said that he was a treasurer over all the treasure that Fir'aun had. So he was the treasurer. According to some traditions, he was also the successor to Fir'aun. And it is also said in authentic traditions that he was no other than the Hizqil, or some traditions mention his name as Hizbil with a bay or ba, or Hizqil with a qaf. And some traditions say that he was a prophet himself also. So that is why, because there is a detailed description about Mu'mine Ali Fir'aun, detailed reference about him, detailed discussion about Mu'mine Ali Fir'aun, Mu'min, believer from the family of Fir'aun. That is why this surah is called Surah Al-Mu'min. So there are two names of the surah, so Surah Mu'min and Surah Ghafir. The last couple of points that I wanted to mention, that Surah Mu'min is one or first of the series of 7 surahs that begin with the huruf muqatti'at or disconnected letters, just like Alif Lam Mim. This surah begins with Ha Mim, Ha Mim. So this series of surahs are called Hawamim. The plural of Hamim is Hawamim. Hamim surah. This is the first of the 7 surahs. There are 7 Hamim surahs, and we see traditions and hadiths for the significance of recitation of these Hamim surahs. One of the tradition that we get from our 6th Imam, Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam says that these surahs, these 7 surahs, are the fragrant fruits and flowers of Quran. These surahs are fragrant flowers of the Quran, and Imam says, just praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and memorize them. Not just read them, not just recite them, not just understand them. Allah, inshallah, give us tawfiq that we are able to, inshallah, memorize all these surahs, inshallah. But Imam says that in a hifz karlo, meaning memorize them. And when you recite them, then thank Allah that Allah gave you the tawfiq to do recitation. These are like fragrant flowers of Quran. And he says that whoever wakes up and right after, again, we were talking about some things that we can do after Fajr. This is one thing that Imam says, whoever wakes up and recites these surahs, Hamim surahs, the 7 surahs, starting from surah number 14, starting from Surah Al-Mu'min or Ghafir, then Imam says that on the day of judgment, a beautiful fragrance will be coming out of his mouth that will be better from mushk and ambar, which are very, very fragrant, beautiful fragrances. Imam says that a fragrance better than mushk or ambar will be coming from the mouth of the person on the day of judgment. Which person? A person who after waking up would recite these surahs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send blessings upon the person who recites these surahs. One, not just that person. Allah will send blessings upon the reciter of these surahs, upon his neighbors, upon his friends, upon the people he knows, his companions. So all his friends, companions, his neighbors, and his close and far friends. So everybody connected to him, they will receive blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because this one person is reciting this surah. So this is such a high, there's so much sawab in the recitation of the surah. It's just not limited to the person. And when you recite the first few verses, that it's a beautiful dua of the beholders of Arsh. Hamilane Arsh, they're praying to Allah for the believing men and women, and what their prayer is, you should recite and see. That's a beautiful dua. They are praying for the believer, and not for the believer, but for the parents and their children and their family. So in this hadith also, Imam says, whoever recites this, Allah sends blessing on his neighbors, friends, and everyone. And on the day of judgment, who will do istighfar for this person? Imam says, on the day of judgment, Arsh and Kursi and the close angels, the Muqarrib Farishte, Muqarrib angels, Malaikat al-Muqarrabin, will also do istighfar for this person. For which person? Who is reciting these surahs. Another hadith that is brought to us or given to us or taught to us by our Masoom is, everything has a brain, and the brain of the Quran are these Hamim surahs. right? Like the heart of the Quran is Surah Yasin. The brain of the Quran are these 7 surahs called the Hamim surahs. So that was a brief description about these surahs. The 40th surah, it is the first of the Hamim series of 7 surahs. It has 85 verses. It was revealed in Makkah. The other name for this surah is Surah Ghafir. It is also, like I said, known as Surah Mu'min, and we talked about why it is named Mu'min or Ghafir. Inshallah, in our next program, this was the introduction. I will just briefly go over the whole surah, and inshallah, if you get a time, go over this surah yourself, inshallah. And this is almost time to end our talk here, and it was really nice, alhamdulillah, talking about Surah Mu'min. And I hope and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah, inshallah, give us tawfiq to recite and memorize these surahs, like the Imam said, because it has a lot of benefits in this world and in the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to practice all the 400 points that Imam Ali al-Islam has taught us. And inshallah, Allah, make us better Muslims. Inshallah, we are the successful ones in this world and in the hereafter, inshallah. May Allah hasten the reappearance of our Imam, inshallah, and make us among his followers and supporters, inshallah. And today I would also like to request a Surah Fatiha for all marhum mu'minin and mu'minat, and especially my mother, Sayyida Iqbal Banu Naqvi, Binte Sayyid Misbah Naqvi, inshallah, and all, marhumin and marhumat, inshallah. With this, I would like to end our talk and take your leave, inshallah. You take care of yourself, inshallah. Remember us all in your du'as. And inshallah, next Sunday, of course, we are meeting every day. But inshallah, with this particular topic, I will meet you next Sunday. And inshallah, tomorrow we have a program, same time, with Sister Shaheen Rizvi, inshallah. So you take care. Rabbana taqabbal minna. Innaka anta samiul alim. Bihaqqi Muhammadin wa alihi tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajhum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fi amanillah.